Well, I'm gonna make a coffee. Do you drink Nespresso?
Of course. Do you how do you fix it? Okay.
Just cream, just milk, but that's it. Sometimes I splash a little cinnamon on top to be a little fancy boy.
Do you see a milk frother? Froth the milk.
No, it froths la crème.
And that to me is disturbing. And I get it. This is an audio app. People can say whatever they want to say. I'm not trying to police people. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. However, I was giving my perspective on it, that it's disturbing to me that this is something that people are doing with such a level of comfort. And then is the question, the response is, well, it's been like this. Well, how did it get like that? How did it get that way? It got that way by people buying into this notion of alternative facts, parroting things they hear on the things they hear on TV, or they read on some blog, or they read in some tweet or post on the internet, without taking the time to logically process the information, to source the information. That's it. And I get it. People aren't into that. Go your merry way. Happy Friday. I was just articulating my perspective.
Thank you for that. I honestly, like, at this point, I mean, I know you're right. But at this point in angle in my life, I stopped after the election giving basically any fucks to give about this. All I know is that this guy's a piece of shit. Most likely, this was personal because the guy did engrave the bullet. That was an actual thing. And we're talking about, what, a guy that made 286 times the average commonwealth of the average American, basically denying people, you know, their fundamental right for healthcare. Because apparently in America, healthcare is a choice. You know, like how you choose to go to, like, I don't know, Starbucks or McDonald's. And the other point is, I really just don't care about this guy. And I applaud.
Doesn't care about a guy that got murdered.
Because we didn't just get one, we got two. Because if, let's go ahead and remember, which is a fact, Blue Cross decided that they wanted to remove anesthesia. They didn't want to give people full anesthesia, and they wanted to cap it. Then someone plugged the back of their head, their CEO, and then they rolled that shit back. These companies have too much free reign. And you know what? I think it's time that we do eat the rich.
Anyone talk about the insider trading case that he was actually facing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of this may not be what it seems. The engraving could be a distraction. This is a mafia-style hit. You have to think about it. This guy left the hotel room at 6:30 in the morning. The person stalking him, the killer, had tracked him for some time. How did he also know that he was leaving at 6:30? What kind of information did he have? Did this guy go out of his hotel room every morning at 6:30? 6:30, not a lot of people are out. So there's that. But there's also the fact that the engravings could be a distraction from that lawsuit that was going on. And we also don't know. It could be, you know, a mistress, somebody with a lot of money, somebody's competitor. God knows what else. I mean, this stuff could go really deep, and there could be a lot of people involved.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a pissed off patient, but I mean, if you look into the case, that's a lot more interesting than the actual assassination. I mean, it's by the Hollywood Firefighters Pension Fund. The claim is that, I mean, he was aware of the lawsuit prior to the actual date, and he sold 31% of his stock, which made him about $15 million. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are aware of it as well. And so, I mean, I think looking outside is one aspect, but it could be inside also.
Well, the thing is, when you control this amount of healthcare for that amount of people, you know, you don't know, like we don't know people in Clubhouse. It's just a small petri dish on the bigger whole of our society.
Question is
that man has rolled over the lives of over 286 million Americans or something like that. I forgot what the number is. You don't know who he denied. Like, we probably have a big John Q situation. And the fact is, it's like, maybe healthcare shouldn't be capitalism. Maybe healthcare should be like, something that's provided. But every time we have to have the conversation, I don't want to pay for anybody's else healthcare. I mean, we're one of the only country, like we're one of the only rare countries where, if heaven forbid you get into an accident and then you have to take an ambulance, that's just going to cost you between $5,000 to $6,000 or even more, depending on the distance and range. And by the way, if they have to save your life, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Medical debt is literally one of the most number one reasons why people file for bankruptcy. Make it make sense, Scotty. Make it make sense.
Well, we have Trump, and the healthcare conversation's not going anywhere for a very long time. Sorry, what I meant to say is I don't know that there's going to be any movement on the question on how to pay for healthcare in a long time. We have what we have, and maybe people just like talking about the healthcare issue.
Yeah, I doubt this assassin, canvassed for Kamala. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to put my money there.
I mean, I have no idea, I don't know, Scott. I'm not into conspiracy theories. I hate them. And the speculation, I'm with Dr. AG. It's annoying as hell. I mean, the way you did it's fine, Scotty, because you make very clear that you're not sure. And you just explain some possible ways to read it. But when people start talking about the shit like they really know what happened, I just tune out because I think it's silly. But, people love theater on Clubhouse. They really do. It's fun for some people, so I also get that too. But I don't like the theater. It's annoying, but that's what we do here sometimes.
Just because one person does something doesn't mean that we do it. But
this is a theater room.
well,
absolutely.
We do have Goat and his musicals, and then he has his backup singers, Dr. AG and I, Dr. Goddess. We chime in here and there. So yeah, it can get theatrical in here, and I think we enjoy it from time to time. We still haven't heard you sing a note yet. You said you were waking it up. So,
well, I never said I was going to leave me alone. I never said I was going to sing.
You didn't tell Goat that. You said,
when?
I'm just waking up.
No, I never said, I'm going to sing. He said, sing the song for me. And I said, I can't. I just woke up. And I really just did.
Okay, but see, when you ended it with "I just woke up," that implies that after you wake up, you get it together, so then you can do it. You could have just said no.
No, that's you making assumptions, my dear.
Exactly, it is.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie, that's definitely an assumption. Mm-hmm. But happy Friday, Hurricane.
Same to you.
So are you going to sing Otis?
No, you'll have to catch me.
Catch me if you can.
And I don't want to go.
Yes, go ahead, Roy. Hurricane, no, he won't come off that.
No, they don't know, Stevie.
All right, so about this insurance thing, I'm trying to make the correlation that if the CEO gets hurt, how is this supposed to change something with insurance? The insurance problem was at an individual sector, private sector. It wasn't at the government. However, United Healthcare does cover Medicare and Medicaid as well.
But was that the portion that was being denied claims, or was it on the individual side only? Right? That would be a couple questions that I wanted to know. And then I'm still just trying to figure out why would the government get involved if they haven't before? No answer.
What the fuck did you ask?
You gotta protect your CEOs, apparently, because that's a thing. You can't just, heaven forbid they just kill a random person on the street. But, these CEOs, they're apparently people of means, and we need to protect them at all costs. So that's...
Well, who said that?
So I'll say this. I'm actually much more familiar with the PNC side, but I was actually talking to one of my professional on the health insurance side yesterday. And she's basically saying a few things that I think are a misconception about healthcare insurance. So it's highly regulated actually by the government. So the idea that, they just drop patients willy-nilly or deny coverage is actually not true, according to her stats. In fact, there's a particular percentage, because it's a lot of people are not familiar as well. It's also heavily...
Suppose you're God.
Come back to that.
Suppose you have all time, all eternity, and all power at your disposal. What would you do?
Go to the beach!
I believe you'd say to yourself after a while, man, get lost. It's like asking another question, which is, supposing you were given the power to dream any dream you wanted to dream every night. Naturally, you could dream any span of time. You could dream 75 years of time in one night, 100 years of time in one night, 1,000 years of time in one night. And it could be anything you wanted. You make up your mind before you went to sleep, tonight I'm going to dream of so-and-so. Well, naturally, you would start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You would have all the pleasures you could imagine, the most marvelous meals, the most entrancing love affairs, the most romantic journeys. You could listen to music such as no mortal has heard and see landscapes beyond our wildest dreams. And for several nights, maybe for a whole month of nights, you would go on that way, having a wonderful time. But then after a while, you'd begin to think, well, I've seen quite a bit. Let's spice it up. Let's have a little adventure. And therefore, you would dream of yourself being threatened by all sorts of dangers. You would rescue princesses from dragons. You would perhaps engage in notable battles. You would be a hero. And then, as time went on, you would dare yourself to do more and more outrageous things. And at some point in the game, you would say, tonight, I am going to dream in such a way that I don't know that I'm dreaming. So that you would take the experience of the dream for complete reality. And what a shock when you woke up. And you really scare yourself. And then on successive nights, you might dare yourself to experience the most extraordinary things just for the contrast when you woke up. You could, for example, dream yourself in situations of extreme poverty, disease, agony. You could, as it were, work on the vibration of suffering to its most intense point, and then suddenly, whoop, wake up and find it was after all nothing but a dream and everything perfectly okay. And you would say, wow, man, that was a gas. Well, how do you know that that's not what you're doing already? You, sitting there with all your problems, with all your whole complicated life situation, listening to me, it may just be the very dream you decided to get into. If you like it, crazy. If you don't like it, what fun it'll be when you wake up.
of being tied to your business? Take action now. If you are constantly pulled back into
invocation of Thoth. Procul, O Procul esti profani, on lasti, on peda. In the name of the mighty and terrible one, I proclaim that I have banished the shells unto their habitations. I invoke Tahuti, the Lord of wisdom and of utterance, the God that cometh forth from the veil. O thou majesty of the Godhead, wisdom crowned Tahuti, Lord of the gates of the universe, thee I invoke. O thou of the ivy's head, thee I invoke. Thou who wieldest the wand of double power, thee I invoke. Thou who bearest in thy left hand the rose and cross of life and life, thee I invoke. Thou whose head is as an emerald, and thy nemes as the night sky blue, thee I invoke. Thou whose skin is of flaming orange as though it burned in a furnace, thee I invoke. Behold, I am yesterday, today, and the brother of tomorrow. I am born again and again. Mine is the unseen force whereof the gods are sprung, which is as light unto the dwellers in the watchtowers of the universe. I am the charioteer of the east, lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light, Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dust, and my birth is from the house of death. O ye two divine hawks upon your pinnacles, who keep watch over the universe, ye who accompany the bier to the house of rest, who pilot the ship of Rome, ever advancing onwards the heights of heaven, Lord of the shrine which standeth in the center of the earth. Behold, he is in me, and I in him. Mine is the radiance wherein the path floats over the throne. I travel upon high. I tread upon the firmament of new. I raise a flashing flame with the lightning of mine eye, ever rushing on in the splendor of the daily glorified Ra, giving my life to the dwellers of earth. If I say, come up upon the mountain, the celestial waters shall flow at my word. For I am Ra incarnate, Kepler, created in the flesh. I am the eidolon of my father Tanu, Lord of the city of the sun. The God who commands is in my mouth. The God of wisdom is in my heart. My tongue is a sanctuary of truth, and a guard sitteth upon my lips. My word is accomplished every day, and the desire of my heart realizes itself as that of the tar when he created his work. I am eternal, therefore all things are as my designs, therefore do all things obey my word. Therefore do thou come forth unto me from thine abode in the silence, unutterable wisdom, all light, all power. So, Hermes, Mercury, Odin, by whatever name I call thee, thou art still nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in this work of ours. Thou, star of the east, that didst conduct the Magi, thou art the same all present in heaven and in hell. Thou that vibratest between the light and the darkness, rising, descending, changing ever, yet ever the same. The sun is thy father, thy mother the moon. The wind hath borne thee in its bosom, and earth has ever nourished the changeless guardian of light. Come thou forth, I say, come thou forth, and make all spirits subject unto thee, so that every spirit of the whirlwind and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in water, of roaring air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the Last One may be obedient unto thee. The 11th key in Enochian. Oxy Ayala, Aldo Odan Zod, Dio Oma, Okoroxo, Da Zodi, Da Raoshi Odan, Yabzodi Kam Liax, Odan Bahal, Neiso, Domanu Teloka, Kasar, Manu, Orako Odan, Day, Ite, Zod, Sobar, Corenta, Igia, Neiso, Bagle Abramji, Nonu Kope, Zodakara, Ega, Oda Zoda Maranu, Odo Kikle Kaa, Zodorji Lape Zodorido, Noko Mada, Owatahi, Ida. The 11th key in English. The mighty sea groaned aloud, and there were 5 thunders which flew into the east. And the eagle spake and cried with a loud voice, Come away. And they gathered themselves together and became the house of death, of whom it is measured, and it is 31. Come away, for I have prepared for you a place. Move, therefore, and show yourselves. Open the mysteries of your creation. Be friendly unto me, for I am a servant of the same your God, the true worshipper of the highest.
We have over 1,500 reviews on Google. This is the second time with the Illinois Hammer Law Firm. I really love this firm because you really talk directly to them and they help you every step of the way, and they're looking out for your interests. That's what makes us so proud, is to get these reviews, read them, and share them with each other. We're changing people's lives. We're making a difference.
10th key in Enochian. Koroksa, Kahisa Korempe, Oda Blanus Lucala, Azodi Azod Oram, Pa Eba, Sobola, Ilo Nonu, Kahisa Ope Vilquo, E Ofanu, Oda Ratira, Ma'ansi Bagle Ka Asji, Da Es Iala Polu, Dosiji Oda Bas Jimi. Oda OXX Da Zodi Sa, Ti Artrisa Oda Salbrax, Ti Inu, Sira, Barbaro Anu. Unala La, Kahisa Konusa, Da Es Da Ox Ko Kazji, OLOR Neo, Yorbe Vohima, Di Zodiacs. Ode, A Orsa Kohasji, Pelosi Molvi, Da Es PJEP. La Raji OM, Da Ronu, Martorbe, Kokasji Emna. El Patralaxa, Yorki Matbai. Nomiji Mononus, Olora, Jinai, Angiladam. Ohio, 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 Ohio. No Ebo, Ohio. Kaosgonu, Bagle Madrida, E. Zodira, Oda Kahiso, Daripa. Niiso, Kaape, Ipa, Nidali. The 10th key in English. The thunders of judgment and wrath are numbered, and are harbored in the north in the likeness of an oak, whose branches are 22 nests of lamentation and weeping, laid up for the earth, which burn night and day, and vomit out the heads of scorpions and live sulphur mingled with poison. These be the thunders that 5, 6, 7, 8 times, in each 24th part of a moment, or within 100 mighty earthquakes, and 1,000 times the many surges, which rest not, neither know any echoing time herein. One rock bringeth forth 1,000, even as the heart of man doth his thoughts. Woe, 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 woe. Yea, woe be to the earth, for her iniquity is, was, and shall be great. Come away, but not your mighty sounds.
Most people believe achieving financial success is all about positive thinking and visualization. But what if there's a scientific approach to enhancing your mindset? Millions of people may practice meditation and prayer, but few achieve their full potential. The key difference may lie in specific brainwave frequencies. A NASA study explored this phenomenon, identifying a brainwave linked to success and creativity. Dr. James Rivers, an MIT-trained neuroscientist, developed a simple daily ritual to potentially activate this brainwave and help
The 9th key in Enochian. Mika Ozod Ramsadi Pijila Na Peta. E Alpere Da Es Brinu Pe. E Fafafe Von Peho. Olani Oda Obzoda. Sobola Upa'a Kahisa. Tatanu Oda Tra Nanu. Balie, Alare Lustan Sobonu, Oda Kahisa, Oku Kon, No Kodi, Kahi Ala. Una, Aldonu, Moma, Ko Ostjo, te a lanza o rey dineo li me lala. Ama kahisa sobeka. Ma drida zod kahisa. U anu kahisa. Avini drilape ka osginu oda butmoni pame zod umvi kanilat. Dazod Isa Adhem Zoda Kahil Da'o Oda Mirka Ozod Ola Kahisa Tudi Ai Kolala Valki Ninu So Bame Okime Bagle I Ada Bortaha Kahilanu Pale Ni Iso Oda Irpe A fa-fa-fe bagle, arco conspe, I corse tea, unige li ora. The ninth key in English. A mighty god of fire with two-edged swords flaming, which have 8 vials of wrath, or 2 times and a half, whose wings are of wormwood and of the marrow of salt, have set their feet in the west and are measured with their 9,996 ministers. These gather up the moss of the earth as the rich man doth his treasures. Cursed are they, whose iniquities they are. In their eyes are millstones greater than the earth, and from their mouths run seas of blood. Their heads are covered with diamonds, and upon their hands are marble sleeves. Happy is he on whom they frown not. Or why? The God of righteousness rejoiceth in them. Come away, and not your wiles, for the time is such as requireth comfort.
Can your management team run the business while you spend quality time with your family? Are you...
Stand erect. Spread your feet slightly apart. Take a deep breath. Stretch and twist your body. Relax the muscles. Twist and stretch again. Relax. Exhale and let your body flop from the waist, dangling like a rag doll. Inhale and bring your body back into the upright position. Loose and relaxed, but upright. Exhale, let your body flop again. Inhale, coming up from the floor. Exhale, flopping forward. Inhale, up and relaxed. Exhale, flop like a rag doll. In, up, 3, 4, out, flop, 3, 4. In, up, 3, 4, out, flop, 3, 4. Wiggle your body. up and down like a snake. Turn it loose as if it were boneless. Let go completely. Arms, head, neck and shoulders, all loose. No tension. Let us dedicate this work to an awareness of the ever-living God by using an ancient prayer. Who should not praise thee, O Lord of the universe, unto whom there is none like, whose dwelling is in heaven and in every virtuous and God-fearing heart. O God, thou vast one, thou art in all things. O nature, thou self from nothing, for what else can I call thee? In myself I am nothing. In thee I am self, and exist in thy selfhood from eternity. Live thou in me, and bring me unto that self which is in thee. Lie down and make yourself comfortable. You are now ready to become more aware of your body. Breathe easily with the lips slightly open. Wiggle around for a moment to find that one position which is most comfortable for you. Now stay in it. Do not move from it in any way. From this moment forward, remain absolutely motionless. Make no voluntary muscular movement, not even a wiggle of the toe or the bending of a finger. Motionless. Now try to feel what is going on inside your body. Let your mind roam freely from head to toe and back again. Slowly, deliberately, methodically. Verbalize what you do feel. Speak out loud as though reporting your different sensations. You are attempting to do one thing and one thing only: to heighten your awareness of sensations inside your own body. You may become conscious of an itching in the scalp. Leave it alone. In a moment or two, it should die down and then totally disappear. Your attention may soon be distracted by a muscular itch or a tingling somewhere else in the body. Whatever it is, again, do nothing about it. Merely observe. Sensations in the different parts of the body will come and go without apparent rhyme or reason. Watch them. Become aware of your body as something you have lived with. And perhaps now, for the first time, you watch it let go and become soft and relaxed.
The buying emotion color wheel turns skeptical, tight-fisted prospects into appreciative and happy to pay true believers. You see, most coaches, consultants, advisors, and the like make two major income-killing mistakes when it comes to getting and working with clients. Number one, they spend way too much time chasing clients. Either they're cold emailing or cold calling or leg pumping prospects on LinkedIn or DMing and commenting and posting all over social media creation. Or they're driving themselves crazy doing launches and webinars and summits and challenges and all kinds of exhausting mass marketing stuff in the hopes of selling some cheap introductory offer and then ascending those buyers. Second mistake, when they do manage to haul in a few clients, they're spending an incredible amount of time serving those clients.
It's better if you could just take their money and never talk to them again. That's what I'm thinking. That's the best business. You teach somebody how to sucker people in. Teach us your secret teaching, master. Yip, ya, yahoo! There is a sucker born every minute.
Above all, make no judgments about what you observe. Merely notice. Don't criticize or reject any of these sensations. They may be comfortable or uncomfortable, pleasurable or otherwise, but they are your own. try to become keenly aware of all the sensations without trying to ignore them or to change them. Be aware of everything that is going on inside. This is the process, eventually leading to self-realization, the integration of the whole man.
The ranks of the Politburo, and how he, like the type of alignment created, and the type of, like, you know, backstabbing that was going on. It's absolutely fascinating. Like he was a creature of that, you know, the Marxist revolution, and you know, the product of it, and one of the most macabre human beings you can possibly come across.
I have to tell you, I did a fair amount of journalistic work on the assassination of Leon Trotsky, and in preparation of a book I think I'm still going to write. But the process of assassinating Leon Trotsky in Mexico City in 1940, it's an amazing story. I think it's worthy and I believe it's worthy of a film, because of the international cabal that Stalin used to get to him, and to get this kid, this guy, this young, I call him a bon vivant, sort of a ne'er-do-well young man to gain access to Trotsky, who was under the highest level of security that a person who was not the president of Mexico, layers of protection, because everybody knew that Stalin was trying to assassinate him, and they let the one guy in who Trotsky knew was the son of a spy that Stalin had in prison and was using was black, who kid, 27-year-old man, basically holding his mother hostage unless he got over Trotsky. And it's an amazing story. It's a total sidebar from our conversation, but very.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty amazing, and I would love to. This is actually, you see, like Hollywood knows it ran out of good stories to tell. I think that would be something that they should really look into, as long as they don't make him into some sort of hero, Trotsky. I'm okay with that.
I think
he was a despicable human being.
And that I think you have to recognize that the distinction between a Stalinist and a Trotskyist is significant in the Marxist mind, and that distinction humanizes Trotsky, because Stalin was such a terrible example of the communist mind. And the romantic, Trotsky, you were able to romanticize Marxism under Trotsky, whereas under Stalin there was no romance at all. You know, even Che Guevara said, you know, who was, you know, the romantic's romantic, was drawn versus Stalin, and Che was as violent as Trotsky, you know, psychotically. Trotsky could be psychotically violent, but was not always, you know, that way. It was a dual personality. But everybody in Hollywood just loved him. I mean, he was.
You know what,
that's where the whole
Dominic?
scare came.
Dominic, when people say Marxist revolution or communist revolution, what is the difference between a communist and Marxist revolution versus, let's say, like a capitalist libertarian revolution? I mean, it's just one is violent and one is not violent, or is there, you know, I just get the feeling revolution is revolution, regardless of whatever political economic theory you have to back up your murderous ideas.
It's a time thing, instant satisfaction. The idea that if you look at the Russian Revolution, ultimately happened in an instant. If you look at it in terms of between you know, June and October of 1917, it was literally a matter of Lenin getting on a train and going to Moscow and hooking up with Trotsky and taking advantage of a moment in time. That's the kind of what do you call it, serendipity that model. I don't know how else to put it.
I don't know the full history, but like Lenin and Trotsky didn't actually kill the Tsar and his family, right? It was a different group of people. I mean, I get the feeling that there's a lot of false narratives with regards to the Russian Revolution, like the Navy taking over first. I mean, it makes it seem like they went from point A to point B to point C to point D, and this is how it all continued to progress. But I mean, it's not a authentic revolution or a natural revolution of progression. I mean, there's vying political parties in the same way that Germany was, the Nazis were fighting the communists there. So, I mean, it's fascism.
Germany defended
so to clarify,
Germany defended itself against the Marxist revolution before, in like 1914, right? They put it down. There was an armed revolution in Germany in 1914 that was defeated. Lenin was defeated. Trotsky was defeated in Germany.
But okay, so just
that's it.
So just to clarify, what happened in Russia is that what you would call like a progressive socialists or a democratic socialists, they were the first ones, because there were two revolutions basically back to back in Russia. So they, you know, overthrew the Tsar. They basically had him sign an agreement that he was not a political entity any longer, that they would take over the country, and they formed a parliament. You know, there was election going on, but Bolsheviks were actually in minority in that parliament, and they were not okay with it because they could not implement their project. So Lenin came after that revolution actually happened, and he, it's a very funny story because nobody was celebrating his coming. Like, it was sort of like a complete, a complete blowout for him, because like nobody was expecting him. Like, a revolution already happened without him, and he needed to be the Bolshevik revolution. So there was a second revolution that overthrew the democratic socialist forces, you know, canceled the parliament, and took it under a dictatorship of the proletariat, sort of speak. So it is a very interesting part of history. And then after that, Bolsheviks basically engaged in terror. I mean, they killed everybody who was against them. They killed everybody who would even think to rising against them. They pushed, there was, like a conflict between the Reds and the Greens, the Reds and the Whites. Then they subjugated all the republics, and it was very, very bloody.
Was it financed? Like, if you had the Reds versus the Greens and the Whites, the red, green, and white parties, you ever see Dr. Zhivago?
I read it.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie. I'm just saying that it seems very confusing, but were there international European powers essentially doing regime change even back then and financing the white party, the red party? Like, what was the international involvement? Because clearly the major governments of the world must have had operatives there funding and coordinating.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there was an engagement from other countries, but it was not like there is even a trace that Lenin himself was sponsored by Germans. That he took a lot of funding from the Swedish bank, I believe, which was kind of a piggy bank of Weimar Republic, to destabilize Russia from within. They never thought that he would be that successful in terms of taking over the government and taking over the country. And like once the civil war broke out in Russia, it was sort of isolated because both England and France, I think, had their troops, and they just withdrew. Like they just left and allowed Russia to do its own thing.
The funny thing is, in Dr. Zhivago, they're a wealthy family of doctors, and next thing you know, a new family moves into their house, and they say, "Comrade, we are your new housemates. Welcome to the glorious revolution." And they're just like, "Oh, great! So glad you could move in. And by the way, you can have the kid." They're just like, they're the nicest people, and they're just like, great, this is the new society. And so recently here in Chicago, I had a similar experience where I own an apartment building, a 2-flat, and my tenants below me got sued because I got sued, and the judge told my tenants that you don't have to pay your landlord anymore. You can pay the law firm, and he can't evict you. So I was under the threat of having a communist parasite and a communist government dictating who my tenants pay rent to, and that they don't have to leave. And I was like, fuck, I'm Dr. Zhivago.
That's great. Do you remember the part in Dr. Zhivago when the one Russian guy who works for the communists, he gets a cut on his face, says, "Do you have any iodine?" It just pours it. That's my favorite part of the movie.
So how do you view Putin, as a historian? Because when he sat down with Tucker Carlson, I believe that all communication is hypnosis. And so Putin, just like the movie The Deer Hunter, he basically told everybody about a wedding for an hour and then went into the meat and potatoes of the situation now. But he refused to discuss anything in the present until he felt that he thoroughly explained the history to where they are, why they are, etc. So how would Putin discuss the Russian Revolution? I mean, it seems to me like he has the belief that it was a tragedy, a travesty, and that the reason why he's so autocratic and I guess fascist, you could say, is because of international regime change operations, influence, chaos. And so it's better to have the one authoritarian leader in government to prevent the crumbling again of what they believe they have built.
I guess, economically. So, I mean, can you fault a nationalistic figure for not wanting chaos in his country and having a heavy hand? I mean, I don't know. Is that what Donald Trump is going to become?
So there's a misconception, I would say, about the way he maintains power in Russia. In fact, he is one of the biggest chaos creators inside of the country itself in order to maintain his power. I mean, it goes all the way back to Chechen wars and the Russian Secret Service basically engaging sabotage and civilian deaths inside of the country to kind of create support for the war, for the second campaign and stuff. I mean, he is one of the more despicable figures of our current time. On par with the North Korean dictatorship and the Maoist China. I mean, he's basically has the whole country at his fingertips, and he's playing with people's lives in the most
Yeah, but he could get assassinated. If that's so true, then he could get assassinated by some patriot close to him. So the point is, if he's a mafioso...
Adrian, that was possible maybe in the early 2000s, not anymore. He wiped out any sort of opposition that was capable of doing something like that. Like wiped them out and hunted them down outside of Russia as well. Like, what is it called? I forget.
Well, my point is that the U.S. government wastes a tremendous amount of money countering Vladimir Putin, as opposed to trying to do some type of reconciliation. But the problem is, we're the biggest defense manufacturer. He's the biggest defense manufacturer. And those two businesses, just like abortion, are not going away anytime soon because there's so much money involved in it. And, if you read that book, about how war is a racket, I mean, America, in my opinion, is going to have to either get really innovative in terms of how we educate the population, because education has clearly become the biggest scam ever. I mean, high school kids would be better off coming to Clubhouse and doing their studies on this app, as opposed to going into some classroom with an African-American man dressed up as a woman with purple hair, which actually exists here in Chicago, where men are able to dress up as women and go teach a class.
Adrian, do you have her phone number or no?
It's a good question about what pronoun he or she prefers. I don't know. It could be they, it could be mer. There's a lot of different pronouns. Have you ever used Instagram and chose your pronouns on Instagram? There's hundreds of pronouns you can choose.
See, that's where I get confused. I thought the question was about the phone number, but nowadays it becomes a question of the pronoun.
I'm so again. I hate that shit. And now dating apps, people say their pronouns. You know what they also say? I've been on a few apps because I'm single, and I haven't been a huge online dater, but now they're like Zionist swipe left.
Yeah.
That's all the time. I'm like, Philly is so like that though. People have like free Palestine and stuff in their profiles.
I looked at this chick's Instagram yesterday, just randomly saw the profile. I thought that she looked cute, so I clicked the profile. She's got her name is like Wild and Fun, and all her photos are extremely risque, but in the highlights section, she has a Palestinian flag, and then she has like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. And for years now, she has been hoarding screenshots of pro-Palestinian content, but yet in her profile section, it's all slutty, like Halloween photos. I'm wild, I'm crazy, I'm artistic, I like to have fun. But then in this one little section, it's like, that is her cause. That is her biggest gripe, I guess, with society, is the Israeli.
You know what I say to those girls? I say, hey, can we role play? I'd like to be the IDF. Gaza Strip. I'd like to invade your Gaza Strip.
Ooh, could you imagine finding some hardcore, because the thing is, a communist, socialist, feminist, liberal, progressive still wants to orgasm with a heterosexual man. And so, that's where, sex can become very exciting between conservatives and liberals, because in the domain of sex, identity and racial identity politics or any type of politics is dissolved in the ecstatic ecstasy. So that's why sex is like a transcendental meditation, because you transcend identity and unite with, your lover and create a new symbiotic organism or something like that. So I don't know, just my thoughts this morning. It would be a little bit like a Trotskyite making love to, I don't know, Ayn Rand.
Wow. I always have a conservative pickup line for Issa every day. One day I was like, "Hey Issa, you're so hot, you made Atlas stop struggling."
I did buy.
One day I said, "Hey Issa, I'd fight off murderers and rapists to go south of your border."
I did read in a Karl Marx book that I bought that the only way to affect communism is to use fiat currency to degrade the value of the fiat currency. So hyperinflation is one of the stated goals of a Marxist, and that's the way to create a socialist, communist, society. And isn't that, it's kind of ironic because you don't think of bankers as being communists, but according to Marxarian theory, only through fiat currency can you actually achieve communism. So, I mean, when you look at the Federal Reserve and you see that, the US government borrows tens of trillions of dollars and that we're 40 trillion in debt, or we owe 10 trillion to the Federal Reserve or whatever it is, well, the big criticism has to be the Federal Reserve and all of their offices and all of their employees and who they communicate with and what they do behind the scenes in secret meetings, unrecorded meetings. What do they do internationally? What are they doing in Europe? What are they doing in Australia? The Federal Reserve has employees everywhere, and they have a pension that will always get paid because they're the money printer. So in the US, if employees of the State Department, the CIA, the FBI, the Army, et cetera, have their pensions cut because the budget has to come down and they can't afford to continue to borrow money, the Federal Reserve employees are always guaranteed their pension. So there's like a total double standard. And I think if you look at the numbers here in Chicago, every 80 cents on every dollar that gets paid out monthly, which is about $1 billion a month in pension payments, 800 million of that is borrowed from Chase Bank. So it's totally insolvent, all these unfunded liabilities, and the federal pension has like a multi-trillion-dollar unfunded liability. You can go to usdebtcollector.org and look at the numbers, but if there is not a reduction in spending and an increase in taxation, you can see that within just a few years, Social Security fails. All of these payment schemes fail. Like they literally cannot afford it because the interest on the debt at $1 trillion is just expanding. And so we're entering Weimar Republic. Like we're at the beginning stages of a hyperinflation event based off of even just pension funding. But also the influx of international dollars coming back to the U.S. So really, the big indicator is always the stock market. And the stock market now is at an all-time high. Bitcoin is at an all-time high. So that increases the money supply. And what I'm just saying is based on this one Karl Marx book I read, the increase of the money supply, the distribution and the flow of all that funding, et cetera, is how communism, whatever that is, takes place. And I just get the feeling now that we are like, now that the Soviet Union has failed and collapsed, we have assumed the debt overall of the world, or somehow we've become the communists.
Well, I recall there was a gentleman who I interviewed who wrote a book called The Theology of Liberation, Gutierrez and to get
Well,
him to speak.
I've heard him speak.
He's an incredible man. He just passed away just now, within the last 2 months, 3 months. He was a radical priest in the early 1960s who had some experience with Che Guevara. And one of the things we spoke about was this eschatology of communism and Catholicism. And one of the things that Che often spoke about was, the new man, and this idea of this socialist communist ideal of the new man that will emerge at the pinnacle of when socialism turns into communism, at that blissful moment in man's development, and becomes psychologically unself-centered and thinks only about his purpose as a member of the community. And Catholicism in Revelation, in which the same kind of thing happens through the second coming of Christ. And so this notion that there is a unity of philosophical thought, almost kind of Platonic idealism of existing in what Plato would call the real world. Bankers and other institutionalists operate with the same eschatological ambition. So I'm just wondering if, I would like to hear your experience with Father Gutierrez.
So wait, are you saying that there?
I mean, I've read Gutierrez, and I heard him speak once at the American Academy of Religion when he was pretty old. This is years ago.
He's like 90. He was 94 when he died.
Yeah, this is. Well, I mean, he was much younger than that, but there was like a panel discussion in honor of like an anniversary of Theology of Liberation. So he responded to a bunch of people. That was good. It was interesting.
He's on the theology professor at Notre Dame for a long time. But it's kind of interesting that he was the politics of Catholicism, and the idea of so-called the Marxist priest doing battle with the conservative papal government, with the Pope and whatnot. It's a hell of a story of internal inquisition, because what these radicals were doing during the revolutionary period in Central and South America was not cool with the Catholic Church. And it's very interesting that the most recent Pope, who is from Argentina, took Gutierrez back in and again, because he's of the same sort of, I don't know what you call it. There's this whole Catholic thing about the preference for the poor, which Gutierrez was an apostle of, and that the Catholic rely on the next life as its only interpretation of human liberation, that it has to have meaning in the material world.
Yeah, I mean, this is true, right, always in the New Testament, right? I mean, the kingdom is already, it's already and not yet, right? And so, I think this is the dance in Christian eschatology, right? Like, over and on versus under-realized eschatology, right? Like, people that are over-realized, which tends to be your leftist, or sometimes your Calvinist dominionist, or people that are under-realized, right? That there's no responsibility for culture or for, human welfare, and we just sort of wait for Christ to come back. I think though, like American mainline Protestantism, like the 20th century, tended to be, at least the first half, tended to be the theology of over-realized eschatology, right? The journal, The Christian Century, was, we're going to talk about a triumphalistic, liberal Protestants don't talk about that stuff, right? That's why that magazine was named, because they thought the 20th century would be the Christianization of the world. And these were good mainline liberals that thought that, but liberal back then would not be. Would not be very different than it means today. These guys were still relatively closer to Christian Orthodoxy than the average mainline Protestant now.
Classically liberal, you mean?
I've been worshiping at this little Episcopal church, and I went to their noonday Eucharist, and one of the priests admitted to me she doesn't believe anything, that the New Testament was all made up by a bunch of men. Oh, all right, just hold your peace and give me the Eucharist, okay?
They can say the same thing about the Old Testament, I guess.
I don't even know what she wants to think about that.
Yeah.
But how do you view transcendental meditation? Like I made the case earlier that sex is an example of a TM experience. And when you have sex, you make a baby. The whole universe is trying to create a baby. So, when a woman says, "Oh, this is all just a bunch of bullshit," but yet she is actually doing it, says she doesn't believe any of it. But the point is the symbols, and what is the intelligence within the symbolism of the activity. So, even if you're an agnostic or an atheist, from a linguistic perspective, you have to admit that the hieroglyphics or the logos or the logos that are in the story point to something transcendental, something behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz. And I can see their perspective when they say this is all bullshit, but that's like saying words aren't useful tools to try to grasp at something higher or even for artistic endeavor. So that's always my critique of atheists, is that there is still a linguistic aspect which you can't deny has significance and value. And if all you're going to do is moan and complain about how Jesus Christ is not God and that God does not exist, you're still denying what the symbols might mean in, alternatively. So,
well, this is like T.S. Eliot when he was in graduate school. There's this very famous grad seminar. Ezra Pound. There's all these impressive people in it. What they used to do there is analytic philosophy, saw the rage back then, and they would debate whether the sentence "the current king of France is bald" means anything, right? And it was sort of a way to debate whether language's meaning was in its referential capacity or in its internal capacity, right? And Eliot's response was very sort of crafty. He says, "Well, there is a present king of France, and by God, he's bald." And what he meant by that was by speaking this supposedly non-existent reality, you give it reality, right? Like now this thing is real because you're talking about it in philosophy seminars all across the country. So this absurdity takes on a reality just by the linguistic invocation of it.
Right. So
I think that's almost the origin of entertainment. That we use language to express absurdity in order to understand better absurdity. By the way, Scott, I listened to your podcast. I want to just congratulate you. The couple episodes I listened to were just terrific.
Thank you. Thanks for which episode?
Well, the first one had to do with the writer who wrote your first one just the other day. Is it? Hold on a second. I have it right here. Where the heck is it? Is it right here? 1 second. It's a picture of my grandmother. Hold on a second. Give and take. Todd McGowan. Oh, he's great. He's a great guy. Yeah. They're very authentic. And I guess he comes off as very authentic in the medium. You know, and I thought that was very. And then the lady who was talking about theology without God.
Oh yeah. She's like an atheist. Yeah.
So there, even the title was kind of like what you were just talking about. When we use language to juxtapose ideas. So the idea of theology without God, okay, kind of sounds absurd, stupid, but then you start dealing with it and you go, well, okay, you know, and these are the kinds of things. It's like the French King thing, you know, and the ball. I don't know what the school of philosophy is that tests language as. I always go back to Plato, who made the point that, you know, real reality is inexpressible through language or any other medium, and that we are stuck below the line, the divided line, in trying to use imperfect creations in order to deal with the imperfect reality of the material world, you know, and ever since, you know, what is the Tower of Babel, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't want to lose my point being that I want to compliment you on your podcast.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I do another one with a pastor friend of mine called New Persuasive Words, and we just did one on Jordan Peterson. Which was interesting because I like Jordan Peterson's therapeutic stuff. I think when he talks about the Bible, he's not so helpful. And so we did this podcast on that. I'll put the link here. I'll pin the link.
His new book.
But thanks for listening.
Wrestling with God or something.
Yeah.
Is that what you talk about in the podcast?
Yeah. And I just think it's very interesting. What I find Eastern Peterson is for someone that has become a kind of, I mean, I don't think he intended this, but he's become a kind of cultural icon in conservative circles among religious people. And what's interesting is he doesn't really understand Christianity or the Bible that well, right? But I do think his therapeutic stuff is interesting. Like, I think what he does with Jung is really interesting. I think the sort of fusing of Jung with some Nietzschean embrace of suffering and stuff. I think I would actually go to him for therapy, because I think he's therapeutically, he's like the way he puts together like kind of human existential stuff. I think he'd be really good, especially for a guy. I think he'd be a good therapist. But I just think when he talking about the Bible, he kind of like takes that stuff and makes it into a kind of natural theology. Just kind of smooths over biblical narratives, but it's not his specialty. So I mean, it's not. I don't blame him for not getting it. It's more kind of like, wow, this is interesting that like so many people I know that are religious like recommend his stuff on the Bible, because I'm like, I just don't think it's that good.
I haven't read a lot of Jordan Peterson.
I heard Jordan Peterson call that famous Richard Dawkins the biological evolutionary person in London, and Richard Dawkins was like, Jordan, you're so obsessed with symbols. You're so obsessed with symbols. Stop it, Jordan. Stop calling me and talking to me about symbols. And he's like a famous atheist, him and Christopher Hitchens. Like, how do you view atheists, you know, I mean, in light of like people on this app versus people like Christopher Hitchens? Because Christopher Hitchens, his critique of Islam was very harsh. And, you know, there you can go on YouTube and you can watch him just tear down Muslims and, you know, call them a bunch of scam artists. And you're like, yeah, that seems kind of true. Like, you're supporting terrorism. But I mean, the point is,
it's illiberal. I mean, I mean, the thing is, no, I'm not saying they're not liberal democratic Muslims. Of course there are. I mean, like, but I mean, that's because they've accommodated. It's like Christianity has, you know, gone through a Reformation, gone through an Enlightenment period. But, you know, like, I mean, you have nations, entire nations that are pretty modern. I mean, they just don't understand pluralism or diversity or liberal values. And so I wouldn't be, if I were like Europe, for instance, I wouldn't be thrilled about letting a bunch of those people into my country. And now I sound like a real Islamophobe or something, right? But you can't say this around Democrats because he'll here's Caleb, he's going to call me out on it. But yeah, you know, you got to, like, I mean, you have to have liberal values to function in the West. And that's, you know, it's an issue. Hey, Caleb. Oh, hey.
have you ever heard of this document called Xinxin Ming? I'll put it in the chat, but it's like an ancient Chinese document, and I've read it a bunch of times. It's a very powerful document. It's basically like Zen theory, I would call it. It's about the fallacy of having an opinion. But at the end, one of the statements is, the more you think, the more you speak, the further from the truth you get. Another statement is, there is no past, there is no future, there is no present. So it's like a transcendental document. I'll put it in the chat. It's called Xinxin Ming. It's a very powerful document. And I don't know if you know who Ram Dass is, Jewish guy who became a Hindu Dindu, but great, prolific person. And he says that he could spend his whole life just with this one Chinese text called Xinxin Ming, which means faith mind.
Caleb, what's going on?
What's going on with what?
About the atheists, the evangelicals.
It's the same. It's the same. They're stupid.
I see Courtney has really found her tribe.
She really has.
Ask the question. Ask the Christian.
Which is surprising, right? Because she hates being a Christian.
I know. She'd love to be. She'd love to join the tribe.
She would love it.
So what do you think summer's going to be like in Israel? Because I'm thinking, I'm getting sued into oblivion over here. So I'm thinking about just abandoning ship, doing Aliyah, and coming back in 20 years when the lawyer and judge here in Chicago have passed on. Yeah, I have a judgment for a foreclosure. I bought a house in 2008. I put down $150,000 and it lost, $300,000 in equity in just a couple months. So I got foreclosed on. And anyways, so now they're suing me, garnished my wages, took my rent from my tenants, and forcing me into bankruptcy or Chapter 13. So I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I should just let this house sit, continue to pay the mortgage, and go find a job, in Yerushalayim, or at least go study, with Reb Lazer Brody and Reb Shalom Arush for a couple months in Jerusalem. I'm being facetious. I wouldn't actually move to Jerusalem, but what was I going to say? Caleb, how do you view the Orthodox, like the ultra religious right in Israel? I mean, do you just think they're racists, or do you think that they have like a higher spiritual transcendental self, which is not bigoted and racist?
Well, I think they've decided to live in an open society, but as a closed element in the open society. So I think that's like a great mismatch. I would prefer that they contributed to the way that the whole place works in different ways. I don't know if they have any special access to anything transcendental that other people don't have access to. Because I actually don't think that they all, it's an illusion that they're all like sitting in yeshiva being all from. Like that's an illusion. That just doesn't happen. There's like these bums who just hang out on the street. They just look religious.
So what you're saying is there's no difference at all, that it's basically no matter what country you're in, it's an index or a bell-shaped curve, despite the fact that you may dress or appear to be, an ultra-religious person.
Look, the outside is the outside, right? You can't know anything from the outside. Very little.
Well, I've been reading Tanya, this translation by Rabbi. Anyways, the point is that to me, that Tanya book is like a very powerful transcendental document on love and really anger management. And I guess the concept of the universe being God and infinite, and you are an expansion or a component of that. So that is like grounds for being joyful, and that all life is joy. So despite whatever tragedy you're going through, you can still rationalize it by knowing that life is joy and love, as opposed to all the other communication we receive here on this app and other apps, and just in the real world as well. I mean, there's a lot of angry people in the real world. You can just read the news and see all the crimes and thefts and murders and other, which is not based on love and joy. It's based on malice and anger and hate and rage and sadness and grief and despair. So as a therapeutic tool, this Tanya book has been helpful for me to have, some faith that things will work out and that life is joy. It's not, a tragedy or necessarily a comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's very classic Hasidism in some ways. It's a little bit more philosophically minded, but it's pretty classic.
But I mean, do you think the Hasidic were able to communicate that message to their neighbors clearly? Because obviously they still got pogromed. I mean, they can preach peace and love and joy, but the opposing forces who want to steal your farm and, maybe kill you or even take you as a slave, I mean, they're not interested in the book. But if you're an intellectual, you are interested in other cultural books. I mean, if you've ever read the Vedas, the Upanishads, Chinese documents, Japanese Zen Buddhist documents, everything is God. That Yiddish expression, alles ist Gott, all is God. I mean, is that not a universal concept around the world in every major religion?
I think all the major religions have some aspect of that. Yeah.
I don't like that stuff. I like a nice creator-creature distinction.
I know, but
do I know Caleb from my Hegelian days? Do I really?
No, you don't, Davi. You're missing the synthesis, man.
I know. That's right. You're probably right. Dude, I had this conversation. I'll send you the link with this guy Todd McGowan, who wrote a brilliant book called Only a Joke Can Save Us, The Theory of Comedy. But it just came out with a book on alienation. It is so good. And he's like one of the smartest, savvy Hegelians that's actually practical that I know. Guy's so awesome. It's such a good cover.
Caleb, how do you think a Hasidic government would run Israel as opposed to, I guess, a Likud government? Because
very badly.
Well, the question is whether it's in Israel and other countries, how does a religious government run the government as opposed to a secular government? What would be the benefits? What would be the drawbacks? I mean, for me,
the benefits are central control. The drawbacks are it's not democratic.
Okay, but what about issues like regime change, debt, banking, national deficits,
They would be terrible
healthcare?
at it. They would be 100% terrible at it.
Do you think they would be inflationists who just say, yeah, let's use as much fiat currency as we can until we can't buy anything else?
I don't think they would have any economic theory. They don't know.
But wouldn't they use the Bible, the Torah, the Talmud, the Gemara, the Mishnah, and every other book to form a basis of governance?
Yeah, but I just don't think that it's. I think it would be very hard to apply all of that to a modern way of living. I think it's impossible, but I don't think it's a governmental way. These things have laid dormant for so long.
So, I mean, in the ancient shtetl in the 1600s, 1700s, I mean, it was a feudal society. So Hasidism was coexisting with a feudalistic society, though it was, the Jews in the shtetls were persecuted, prosecuted, abused, and not integrated into society. And so they formed their own little mini economy. I'm just saying that within that mini economy, the courts, the governance of that group within a larger group, I'm just saying like what you could pull from it and say, this worked, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, and then reformulate, based on efficiency. And that's the problem is people are just so ruthlessly efficient. I don't know. I'm just, rambling here, but.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think on a military side, they would be an abject failure. They wouldn't be able to defend the country. All right, well, I got to go learn Torah right now with the student. Learning a little Torah.
Have a good one.
We're learning, we're doing the Torah on Rashi with the Torah, the whole from the beginning.
I support those that support Torah, Caleb.
There you go. Good. Thanks, Weaver.
Okay, Scott, would you like to be my Torah scholar, my Torah Talmud Chacham? Because we have a minyan here where two or more gathered together in the study of Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom will appear. I just want to read to you a chapter from.
Can I be the Torah Chacham?
You can. This is called The Practice of Comprehension. This is the 17th chapter of Tanya by Rabbi Rami Shapiro and Shek the Shalomi. Take the deepest breath of the day through your nose. Hold it for 10 seconds. Loving God intellectually, you can understand the verse. For this thing is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. The it is tevunah, the rational love of God. For while ecstasy is not for everyone, reason is. You can contemplate God's infinity at any time, and when you do, you will generate at least this rational love that leads to godly action. This is true even for the wicked, whose deeds give no life, for rational love can shatter the iron wall that separates them from God. Why? Because even rational love leads to remorse, and remorse to a broken heart, and a broken heart to goodness, as it is written, the sacrifices to God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. Subnote, goodness surrounds Makif. The heart, like the sea, surrounds the hull of a ship. If the hull should crack, the sea rushes in. It is the same with the heart and goodness. Again, we find the Alter Rebbe refusing to write off even the wicked. For everyone is a manifestation of God and can awaken to God. If this is so, then awakening is neither esoteric nor difficult to achieve. On the contrary, it is in your mouth and in your heart that you may do it. Deuteronomy 30. In other words, every person, no matter how alienated from God, and others he or she may feel himself or herself to be, is innately capable of shattering the iron wall of separation. Kelipat noga. How? Through the cultivation of the intellect, seichel. When you devote your mind to contemplating the infinite expanse of God, you begin to realize that you are a part of that with a capital T. Understanding that God's ahava rabbah, God's infinite love, must embrace even the most alienated and lost. You begin to doubt the absoluteness of your alienation. The iron wall you imagined separating you from God begins to crack, and when it does, goodness seeps in to the cuck and to the taint, slowly hollowing out the Kalipa Noga so that it becomes more and more transparent to the light of God. Okay, these are some other subnotes. Bittel, Tebuna, everything from quarks to quasars has its own level of consciousness, its own innate wisdom and intelligence. Ecclesiastes 7:12, the Alter Rebbe is reading this text unconventionally, rather than assume the it that is possessed is, as the text clearly intends, wisdom. He assumes it refers to life. In this way, the text reads, wisdom gives life to all the living. Wisdom is the life force itself. The Alter Rebbe is playing with the word kok, ma, wisdom, defining it as the capacity to know the essence, kok, of what is ma. The essence is God. So wisdom is the big emphasis. That's really what Torah is. You know, Caleb has said, I have a student, we're going to go study Torah. What he really said is, I have a student, we're going to go study wisdom. And wisdom gives life to all the living, which is Chokmah, which is really Chabad. That's what Chabad deals with, wisdom. That's why they're called Mossad, Supreme Intelligence. Okay, that's been my Torah portion of the day. Rabbani Shalom. Scott, thank you so much for helping me create this minion. If you'd like, I'd continue to read to the book from the book of the Tanya by the Alter Rebbe. What do you say, Scott? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to convert to Judaism today and renounce Jesus Christ H. Lord as your Lord and Savior?
What's my signing bonus?
Well, you get a prick on the dick, draw a little blood, and then you got to answer a couple questions from the Beit Din to prove that you are now one of the tribe. You said you like to get cucked. Tell you what, we'll cut you a special deal. We won't prick your dick. We'll prick your taint, because I know your taint's a little ticklish.
One second, agent, I'm in line. I'm at the welfare office, my friend. Just here trying to get my father. Trying to get my food stamps. And I'm back.
Okay, we're going to read another chapter from the Tanya. Rabbi Shalom Yeshua. I feel like, you know, you, me, Caleb, we're like the three amigos. You know, Steve Martin. What's his face? Billy Crystal.
I like that. Which ones are we? Who's who?
I don't know. What was the other guy who always plays that Hollywood guy? Martin Short. The Three Amigos. Did you ever see that movie?
I love that movie. How do you know it's a male plane? You know, the little balls.
Isn't the Three Amigos just a metaphor for the three wise men? Isn't it always like these three magi? Like what? Yeah. Okay, so this is Tanya. This is Hasidic wisdom. This is called a dull heart. Just as an active and distracting mind is one challenge, a dull and lifeless heart is another. To arouse a dull heart, follow the advice of the Holy Zohar. A wooden beam that does not burn should be splintered, and a body opaque to light should be crushed. How is this done? By observing the foolishness in your thoughts, words, deeds, and dreams, and by reading the lives and teachings of saints. In this way, you will tremble and sin not. That is, you will rouse the good against the evil. In this way, you discover that the other side also serves God, offering you another way to awaken to your unity with God. It is merely being granted permission to confuse you with false and deceitful words in order that you may be more richly rewarded. This is the subnote. Timtum halav, dullness of heart, is more troubling than even the glittering ball of selfishness. The Kelipat Noga at its most thick and alienated. At least the Kelipat Noga could feel heartbreak, and through this break open to the heartbreak of others and the unity of self and other in God. The dull heart feels nothing. It has to be made to feel, and for this it must be splintered and crushed. Zohar 3. You do this by comparing your thoughts, words, deeds, and even dreams to those of spiritual giants. This will awaken a sense of trembling. You will be shocked by the lifelessness that has entrapped you, by how far you have fallen into the despair of the Sitra Achra, the other side, that aspect of you that falls prey to selfishness and alienation. And this sense of horror will in fact awaken your innate sense of goodness, the Yetzer HaTov. In this way, you will come to value the other side as yet another gift from God, for without the harrowing darkness, there is no value to the hallowing light. Just as Yetzer HaTov balances Yetzer Hara, so light balances darkness. Each goes with the other, and together they partake of the non-duality of God. God manifests as the other side, Sitra Achra, and the shells of self, Kelipat, in order to provide you with the dark against which the light can shine and be known. God gives rise to foolishness that you might discover wisdom. God allows for dullness that you might tremble with life. Everything is as it is to provide you with the opportunity to see what is. Okay, these are additional subnotes. Those who suffer from Timtum Halev, dullness of heart, cannot address their situation directly. They cannot simply rouse themselves to love of God or neighbor, for dull hearts lack this kind of passion. The temptation of Timtum Halev is to deny how dull your heart is by focusing on the sins of others. The dull of heart rarely sin. They simply lack the energy to do so. Their error is to mistake the absence of temptation as a sign that they have defeated their evil inclination, Yetzer Hara. They see the struggles of others to resist temptations and imagine themselves to be morally and spiritually superior. Their pride masks their dullness and excuses the lack of spiritual maturation. The Alter Rebbe's antidote to dullness of heart is to cultivate true humility by imagining yourself in the place of those for whom temptation is a serious challenge. In other words, he wants you to use your imagination to set your evil inclination ablaze like a flaming fire. Hosea 7:6. This may sound counterintuitive. Isn't the evil inclination our enemy? No, on the contrary. The evil inclination, properly understood and employed, is the catalyst for teshuvah, returning to God and godliness. The desire of the inclination is not for evil, but to arouse your compassion for self and others by awakening you to the presence of evil and the suffering evil causes when it isn't yoked to the inclination for good, Yetzer HaTov. Placing yourself in the shoes of others awakens you to your limitations, even as it humbles you in the face of theirs. Scott, are you still here? Have you fallen asleep? Has your taint taken over?
No, its taint is golden.
Okay, let's continue cultivating humility. This is chapter 30. Moving through dullness of heart requires you to work with it rather than against it. Working with it, you must be humble before everyone. Being humble, you must not judge others until you stand in their place. There are those whose situation surrounds them with illicit delights and places them in constant temptation, and there are those in whom temptation burns like a flaming fire. You cannot know the fierceness of their struggle to resist temptation, for the inclination toward evil is unique to each of us. Therefore, weigh and examine your own place and measure your own capacity to pass this test. Atzvut means depression. Kelipa Noga, the spark of God, is always spoken of as feminine, as are the 5 levels of intelligence and the presence of God herself, the Shekhinah. This is to balance the masculine language of God and prevent any idolatrous limitations of God as being male or female. Working with sadness. As you arouse your heart by facing your inclination toward evil, you may find yourself engulfed in a deep and troubling sadness. If so, do not be alarmed. Such sadness arises from and operates within the shell of self, yet it draws energy from your innate yet hidden desire for God and godliness, and thus kindles your passion for self-transformation. To work with sadness, say to yourself, I feel utterly removed from God, yet within me is the light of God, desiring only to return to God. Let me return this spark to her father's house, where she is united with God as God. Therefore I will cry out to God, and God will end this captivity and reunite her with himself. This is the practice known as returning through kindness. It should occupy you all your life. When you admit you are alienated from God, you are also admitting that you know you are alienated from God. And this knowing can only come from a place that is not alienated. Hence, the feeling of alienation stems from a source of integration. Shift your attention to that source, and in time the sadness will be transformed. Teshuvah through masim tovim, literally returning through good deeds. Teshuvah is often translated as repentance, but its literal meaning turning or returning is far more revealing. Repent means to feel remorse, but teshuvah means to use that feeling of remorse to return to God in godliness. The way of returning to God is through acts of godliness, masim tovim, especially acts of selfless kindness. Rabbi Shneur Zalman knows the seductive power of sadness to excuse inaction and spiritual sloth. He also knows that to decry sadness or to insist that you overcome it is simply to strengthen your sense of powerlessness. If you could stop being sad or broken-hearted, you would, but you can't. Insisting that you should is simply silly. The Alter Rebbe is far too wise to allow sadness to keep you from spiritual maturation. Rather than claim sadness as a block that must be removed, he sees it as yet another tool to be used. You are sad and despairing of your ability to overcome selfishness and realize your true nature as a part of God? Good! That very despair can be a doorway to teshuvah, return. Working with depression, atzvut begins with the imagination. Imagine the light of God trapped within the shell of ego. She longs to return home to her source, but your obsession with self prevents this. Feel her pain, her suffering, her longing. This is the deeper atzvut, the deeper heartbreak that will arouse you to be her liberator. How? Through masim tovim, selfless acts of kindness toward others. Talmud Shabbat 31a. According to the Talmud, a Gentile once approached Rabbi Hillel, demanding that he teach him the entire Torah while standing on one foot. Hillel met the man's challenge, saying, "What is hateful to you, do not do to another." This is the entire Torah. All the rest...
Amigo Adrian Scott, what's up, brother?
I'm reading the Tanya.
Okay, everything is okay, bro.
Performing selfless acts of kindness, masim tovim, is a direct path to God realization, for it reveals the unity of self and other in, with and as God. This is the meaning hidden in the command to love your clown house neighbor as yourself.
Okay.
Torah doesn't say love your neighbor as you love yourself, for this puts the focus on love. You may or may not love yourself, and even if you do, the self you love is most likely the egoic self of neshama, consciousness that sees itself forever separate from your neighbor. Neshama cannot love anything as part of itself, since the entire purpose of neshama is to maintain the illusion of a separate self. Loving another as yourself moves you beyond self to soul, beyond the isolated ego neshama that sees self and other as part from God, to the integrated soul, chaya, that sees self and other as a part of God. This is why our sages say that turning from self to soul cannot happen in an imperfect place. Zohar 1:216. That is a place of fragmentation. Turning happens when the fragmented self meets the integrated soul, while it is the fragmented self that is turned toward wholeness. The turning itself happens in the soul. Okay, Scott, what'd you think of the Tanya? Did you like it? I knew you were going to like it. I knew your taint was going to be happy.
Oh my God, it's tickled and thrilled.
Woo!
Okay, now that we've completed our Tanya study for the day, we're going to move on to the Shema. Do you know what Shema is?
Of course I do. Just love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind.
Especially in your taint.
My taint adores Hashem. After all, it is Hashem that made my taint.
Grab your taint! I'm kind of laughing because in chakras, the taint is actually like one of the holy chakras. But it's really just the groin. Okay, we have fulfilled the mitzvah of the Shema, Rabbeinu Shalom. I'm going to take us back, and I'm going to give you a powerful hypnosis from Dr. Paul Foster Case. This is called the Bornless Ritual.
Want to help drive America's tech?
But first, an ad.
Edge. Alumni Ventures U.S. Strategic Tech Fund gives
The Bornless Ritual. Thee I invoke the Bornless One, thee that didst create the earth and the heavens, thee that didst create the night and the day, thee that didst create the darkness and the light. Thou art Asa Arnepha, whom no man hath seen at any time. Thou art Iarbes. Thou art Ear, Apophras Ra. Thou hast distinguished between the just and the unjust. Thou didst make the female and the male. Thou didst produce the seeds and the fruit. Thou didst form men to love one another and to hate one another. I am Achav the Konsu, thy prophet, unto whom thou didst commit thy mysteries, the ceremonies of Hem. Thou didst produce the moist and the dry, and that which nourisheth all created life. Hear thou me, for I am the angel of Ptah, Apophras Ra. This is thy true name, handed down to the prophets of Hem. Hear me. Arei, Theof, Rai Bet, Atheri Berset, They Latham, Arbeu, Ebeu, Phi Theta So A, Ebe, Theaof. Hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. I invoke thee, the terrible and invisible God, who dwellest in the void place of the Spirit. Ah, go, 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 Abraham, so thou, Ludori, fell off the the bornless one, hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of a whirling air and of a rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Hear me, Ru
Okay, Scott, we're going to take a break from that. That's Dr. Paul Foster Case, or actually that is Israel Regardie. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a famous magician. Okay, I want to read to you this Chinese document that I put in the chat, and I'm going to pin it to the room. I would love for you to read this out loud. This will be like one of our therapeutic book club events. But this document is a very powerful Chinese psychological document. Very powerful. So I'll read it to you, then you read it to me, and together our taints will be free. This is called Shin Shin Ming. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preference. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are infinitely set apart. If you wish to see the truth and hold no opinions for or against anything, to set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail. The way is perfect, like the vast space where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. Indeed, it is due to our choosing to accept or reject that we do not see the true nature of things. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things nor in the inner feelings of emptiness. Be serene in the oneness of things, and such erroneous views will disappear by themselves. When you try to stop activity, you achieve passivity. Your very efforts fills you with activity. As long as you remain in one extreme or the other, you will never know oneness. Those who do not live in the single way fail in both activity and passivity. Assertion and denial. To deny the reality of things is to miss their reality. To assert the emptiness of things is to miss their reality. The more you talk and think about it, the further astray you wander from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. To return to the root is to find the meaning, but to pursue appearances is to miss the source. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is going beyond appearance and emptiness. The changes that appear to occur in the empty world we call real only because of our ignorance. Do not search for the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. Do not remain in the dualistic state. Avoid such pursuits carefully. If there is even a trace of this and that of right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. Although all dualities come from the one, do not be attached even to this one. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, nothing in the world can offend. And when a thing can no longer offend, it ceases to exist in the old way. When no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to exist. When thought objects vanish, the thinking subject vanishes. As when the mind vanishes, objects vanish. Things are objects because of the subject, mind. The mind subject is such because of things, objects. Understand the relativity of these two and the basic reality. The unity of emptiness. In this emptiness, the two are indistinguishable, and each contains in itself the whole world. If you do not discriminate between coarse and fine, you will not be tempted to prejudice and opinion. To live in the great way is neither easy nor difficult, but those with limited views are fearful and irresolute. The faster they hurry, the slower they go, and clinging attachment cannot be limited. Even to be attached to the idea of enlightenment is to go astray. Just let things be in their own way, and there will be neither coming nor going. Obey the nature of things, your own nature, and you will walk freely and undisturbed. When thought is in bondage, the truth is hidden, for everything is murky and unclear, and the burdensome practice of judging brings annoyance and weariness. What benefit can be derived from distinctions and separation? If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Indeed, to accept them fully is identical with true enlightenment. The wise man strives to know goals, but the foolish man fetters himself. There is one Dharma, not many. Distinctions arise from the clinging needs of the ignorant. To seek mind with the discriminating mind is the greatest of all mistakes. Rest and unrest derive from illusion. With enlightenment there is no liking and disliking. All dualities come from ignorant inference. They are like dreams of flowers in the air. Foolish to try to grasp them. Gain and loss, right and wrong. Such thoughts must finally be abolished at once. If the eye never sleeps, all dreams will naturally cease. If the mind makes no discriminations, the 10,000 things are as they are of single essence. To understand the mystery of this one essence is to be released from all entanglements. When all things are seen equally, the timeless self-essence is reached. No comparisons or analogies are possible in this causeless or relationless state. Consider movement stationary, and the stationary in motion. Both movement and rest disappear. When such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate finality no law or description applies, for the unified mind in accord with the way, all self-centered striving ceases. Doubts and irresolutions vanish, and life in true faith is possible. With a single stroke we are freed from bondage. Nothing clings to us, and we hold to nothing. All is empty, clear, self-illuminating, with no exertion of the mind's power. Here thought, feeling, knowledge, and imagination are of no value. In this world of suchness, there is neither self nor other than self. To come directly into harmony with this reality, just simply say, when doubts arise, not to. In this not to, nothing is separate. Nothing is excluded. No matter when or where, enlightenment means entering this truth, and this truth is beyond extension or diminution. In time or space, in it a single thought is 10,000 years. Emptiness here, emptiness there, but the infinite universe stands always before your eyes. Infinitely large and infinitely small, no difference. For definitions have vanished, and no boundaries are seen. So too with being and non-being. Don't waste time in doubts and arguments that have nothing to do with this. One thing, all things, move among and intermingle without distinction. To live in this realization is to be without anxiety about non-perfection. To live in this faith is the road to non-duality, because the non-dual is one with the trusting mind. Words, the way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Note, the Chinese character translated as the great way or way is the character for Tao. Okay, so that's a Taoistic document. Third Chinese Patriarch of Zen, translation by Richard Clark of the Xin Ming, attributed to Sang Cun, the third Chinese Patriarch of Zen. Pretty amazing, isn't it, Scott?
Excellent, excellent.
Okay, now it's your turn to read the magic document. This is
Not right now because I'm in the government office and they don't like me to talk in there.
what?
They don't like me to talk here.
What government office are you in?
I'm getting my food stamp.
You're getting food stamps.
Yes.
Holy shit, I gotta get me some food stamps.
Far we dumb Babylon bowed in our dust, a sorrow night, our thing e protest, abra sex, R-A-O-O-U, Ishure, mighty and bornless one, hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. I invoke thee, Ma-ba-ra-E-O, E-O-A-L, Ko-Thum, Ah-Sorry-Barlow, Ah-Bruff. Hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of a rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Hear me. Aftam, Abaftam, Bas-Om, Isak, Sabaoth. This is the Lord of the gods. This is the Lord of the universe. This is he whom the winds fear. This is he who, having made voice by his commandment, is Lord of all things, King, ruler, and helper. Hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Hear me. E-A-O-U, Pe-U-Re, E-O-U, Pe-U-Re, E-A-F-T, E-R-A-O, E-O-O-U, Abra-Sax, Shab-We-Am, O-O, Oof, Oof, Adonai, A-Day, A-Do, Angelos Tontheon, Alala Lai Ga-E-R. I-Pe, Diathana Thoron. I am he, the bornless spirit, having sight in the fate, strong and the immortal fire. I am he, the truth. I am he who hate, that evil should be wrought in the world. I am he that lighteneth and thundereth. I am he from whom is the shower of the life of earth. I am he whose mouth ever flameth. I am he, the begetter and manifester unto the light. I am he, the grace of the worlds. The heart girt with a serpent is my name. Come thou forth and follow me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of morning air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. E-R-O, Sa-Ba-O. Such are the words.
Rule number 3, you can't get rich slow. When I owned 100 houses,
When I owned 100 houses, he started crying. He teared up. He lost it all. Okay, so I'm going to read to you something called The Rights of Man. It's by Crowley. It's a very powerful neurolinguistic programming document. Okay, Scott, here's the remainder of your free therapy session today. The law of the strong. This is our law and the joy of the world. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. Every man and every woman is a star. There is no God but man. Man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do. The work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. Man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. Man has the right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as he will. When, where, and with whom he will. Man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. The slave shall serve. Love is the law. Love under will. Okay, Scott, this is your last free neurolinguistic programming before I have to start charging you food stamps. This is called the Magus. Flickering chaos has been harmonized, subjugated to a mortal mind, wove with measures of pleasant motion, a whirlwind waves of leaping ocean. Serene become in dusk of dreams, when wakes the sun, mortal in man, whose every thought is as a beam, sculptured from the glow of Pan, unveiled and swift in crowned theme, catching the gleam of higher self, then moving it in Magus veins, with great and mighty murmurings of lovers light as laugh of elf, or deep as Venus gazing deep into the starry heart of things, long hid in folds of crystal clouds, whose tears bewing the sighing shrouds, o'er the lost Adonis flowers of happiness and song. 1,000 lyres I shake in dance of this revealing. I loose the tempest of my tongue to chant a perfect key. The atom of my lower self performs his bowed obeisances. Behold, I am his Magus, swift and pure. Hi, Denise. Listening to that higher genius, whispering in the incense that curls its mist within my ear, a Lucifer that utters potent oracles. Our kingdom is won, our labor done, our gloomful cage is broken, the senses' storm is now outworn. The mind has brought confusion under the scepter of harmony, oh, under the wand of love. We are free to weave a dance. Okay, we lost our audience. We'll take a pause. Okay, this has been the Three Amigos with Scott, Caleb, and others, we're going to leave this room and go to the no ID
Let's get
call.
down to the core of it, shall we? Where the fuck did y'all get that black people don't like Africans? Where y'all getting this from?
Might I bring up
Blaming Africans for the slave trade. I think that's what's being responded.
Let's try this again for all the slow people in the back of the class. Where are you getting that black people do not like Africans?
We've been hearing this for a long time.
Can I answer this?
We've been hearing this for a long time. We don't got to talk about.
All right, time now was 6:30, 30 minutes past the hour.
Giving time checks.
I don't know. Maybe they're not there yet. I don't know. Maybe this is like me. I don't really care before. Now, when I'm getting old, I'm just like the way I look at it. First was
Hello, moderators. I'd like to read something about self-awareness.
Okay.
Like a sonnet or something?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is called Every Last Drop by Shadow. This walk-in ritual fell from the soul of a shadow man down in the ghetto of pain. It's chanted to the wail of a demon blues harp, and the rhythm is footsteps ringing hollow through foggy 3 a.m. streets. A blues song to sing as you are crossing the abyss, a chuckle for the boatman as payment. The desert is bleak and barren, and nighttime is so damn black. The air is thick and heavy, and the wind whispers turn back. As a distant echo, wind whispers turn back. Flies, they are a-swarming. Scorpions and rattlers nip. It kicked me. That's so funny. Okay, that's it. We cleared the queue. Oh my God, there's always more.
You're gonna take it where? Like on January 20, right? You're gonna take the place in the White House, right?
Yeah, 15 days, 14 days. Yeah, in 14 days.
Holy shit.
There was a
Oh
genocide.
my God. Look at this all-star cast.
genocide in
This is possibly one of the
We wouldn't like what either of them did.
There are documentaries going back 20 years.
Doesn't really exist enough yet.
This is possibly one of the dumbest and the least supported point that can possibly come out in support of this conflict. Because I come from that region.
The crazy militias you want to call state military?
One of the part of those quote unquote people who he was trying to save. First of all, the leaders and the grunts who overran that portion of the country were Russian citizens. Wow.
Okay, I'm going to end this live stream. If you want to rejoin the new live stream, just click on the YouTube profile and you can hear this room called Let's Talk About Syria, and I'm going to change the cameras around.
Nothing to do with Ukraine or Russian-speaking Ukraine.